Warriors in Memphis start in a few minutes. So I figured that it'd be a good time for 49ers Q&A. Quiet day on their front, but obviously it's going to get a whole lot busier starting tomorrow. We have the NFL schedule release, and you can expect a bunch of schedule release links throughout the day before 5 p.m. Pacific when the actual schedule comes out. And then I'll actually be at the 49ers facility tomorrow on Thursday for rookie minicamp availability. Minicamp doesn't start practice-wise until Friday, but a lot of the rookies will be showing up throughout the day tomorrow at Levi Stadium. So for the first time since 2019, we'll actually get to meet the rookies as they show up in person for some media access. So be sure to follow the channel, subscribe to The Athletic, follow me on Twitter at Lombardi himself, because I'll be cranking out some content as tomorrow rolls along. It's going to be a busy one with both the schedule release and that media availability. I see we don't have many viewers right now. I obviously anticipate that most people are probably already tuned into the Warriors game, but I felt that it'd be just a good idea to host a little Q&A because I didn't expect as many people, but that means that I'll have much better chance of getting to your questions. So go ahead and put those questions in the comment section. 49ers 2022 road opponents: Carolina, Chicago, Seattle, Atlanta, Denver, Las Vegas, Arizona, and the LA Rams. We'll find out what order, what dates those games will occur in tomorrow. Obviously, the 49ers will visit Arizona in Mexico City. That one's coming right before Thanksgiving on Monday Night Football. That's the only one that's been confirmed official so far. More information should pour in as the hours progress leading up till 5 p.m. tomorrow. It's about 23 hours away when we'll get the official schedule release. So put those questions in the comment section. I'm going to try to rapid fire to them, and we'll get some of these answered, and then everybody can go off on their merry way to watch the Warriors game tonight as they try to close out Memphis. While I wait, I will go ahead and share some of my work from The Athletic. This has been the work that I've put out this week. You can go ahead and check out this link, theathletic.com/author David Lombardi, and check out some of the articles, because I believe that right now we have a $1 a month deal for 49ers content up on The Athletic. So there you see the piece on Samuel Womack, a scouting report with his college coach. Right before that, I had a longer feature on Nick Zakel. I interviewed his mom, his coaches, everybody really on Nick Zakel. Fordham was nice enough to pass that story out on their Twitter. So I'm sure a bunch of Fordham Ram fans are excited about Nick Zakel. And as I've mentioned on the live, I recently talked to Herm Edwards, ASU coach, good friends with John Lynch. And obviously Herm Edwards coached Donovan West, undrafted free agent 49ers center. Be a nice piece on Donovan West, Brandon Ayuk, who also played for Herm Edwards, and John Lynch's relationship with Herm, coming out tomorrow on The Athletic. So stay tuned for that. That one's going to be fun, and we'll have more to talk about then. So it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. Hopefully your questions are coming in now. Tune in, subscribe to The Athletic for that $1 a month. And now I'm going to the comment section where our questions have indeed started to roll in. So before the Warriors start at 6:23 right now, let me get through as many of these as possible. Do we know the level of difficulty the 49ers team's opponent's schedule yet? Yes, we do know the level of difficulty. It's always correlated to where the 49ers finish in their division, right? So the 49ers this past season finished behind both the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. So that means the 49ers will get to play a third-place schedule this year. They get to play the third-place teams of the division that they're slated to play in this next year. So you could take a look at the 2022 road opponents: Carolina, Chicago, Seattle, Atlanta, Denver, Las Vegas, Arizona, and the LA Rams. The division that the 49ers play on the opposite side is the AFC West. So that's, a tough draw, because the AFC West is very, very stacked this year with talent. You had so many players, probably most notably Russell Wilson, headed over to the AFC West. So the 49ers do travel to Denver. So your question was, how tough of a schedule do the 49ers have? Well, they have a third-place schedule as far as their NFC opponents go, but they have the AFC West on their schedule, and that is a difficult one. So I'm assuming it's not going to be an easy schedule for the 49ers in 2022, but you do know that we know nothing. You know that you know nothing. A little bit of an oxymoron there. These teams, they change so much over the course of the offseason. Small personnel changes can lead to big, differences in team quality from year to year. So that's why you always have surprise teams, and that's why you always have teams that shock everybody by underperforming. It's the NFL. It's designed for parity. So even though we think we might know everything about who's strong and who isn't right now, we really don't. And we're going to have to wait and see what exactly will happen. But we'll get the structure of that schedule when the 49ers play each team on it. We already know the 16 or 17 games, right? We just don't know when the games will be. We'll get the structure of it on Thursday. All right, I'm going to try to rapid fire through these, get through them a little bit quicker. So here we go. David, do you see Jason Verrett being a role model to Ambry Thomas and preparing him for the future opposite of Charvarius Ward? Absolutely. I think the 49ers saw Jason Verrett be a role model last season. He was around the team facility. He was in the film room after he tore his ACL, and he was helping some of those young guys. I don't think it's a coincidence that Ambry Thomas got a whole lot better as the season went along, and it certainly helps to have a player who's familiar with the scheme and as talented as Jason Verrett around. And Verrett's going to be on a minimum deal. He's going to be just trying to extend his career. And I think Richard Sherman has showed us that you can deliver a lot of value late in a career if you share your knowledge to some of the younger guys. It actually helps keep you around. In a way, the 49ers kept Sherman through all 3 years of his contract with them, and he was a massive, massive influence on some of the younger defensive backs. So Jason Verrett's already shown to be a positive influence, and I think the 49ers will expect to see some of the same next year. Is the 2022 defense the best unit of the Shanahan era? Well, it's still way too early to call them the best or the worst or a mediocre one because we still haven't seen them play, and it's May 11th right now. But I think on paper, the 49ers have a chance to be really, really good. I've talked about this before. I think that the formula for the 49ers to be a contender in the 2022 season will be to get the defense back into top 2 or at least top 3 level. They were a top 6 unit in the past couple of years. I know that in 2021, they fell off a little bit more. Maybe you'd have to say top 10 unit, right? But toward the end of the season, they were a top 3 unit. They were really surging there from Cincinnati onward. But the 49ers can't afford to have the kind of slip from their defense that they saw over the first half of the 2021 season when it was actually a bottom half unit. The offense had to carry the load there for a long part of the way until the pass rush got going. Personnel-wise, I think the 49ers are stacked along the defensive line. They've really loaded up there. They may have the best linebacker core in the league, and they've obviously developed depth in the secondary that they didn't have in 2021, with Jason Verrett being case in point. So if you put all those things together, you have decent health for the 49ers moving through the 2022 season. I think you absolutely can expect a ceiling for this defense of a top 3 defense. And that's the 49ers formula, because if you start Trey Lance at quarterback, you're going to expect some growing pains. How do you overcome growing pains in the offense? You play really good defense, and you make sure the special teams doesn't suck as it did last season. And the 49ers have replaced their special teams coordinator and spent the offseason racking up new players for special teams. So the formula is really good defense, decent special teams, at least decent special teams, plus an offense that the 49ers expect to improve. And if that's going to be the formula, the defense is going to have to rival what the 49ers were able to accomplish in 2019. All right, moving forward, will the media be present for rookie minicamp on-field work? Yes, the media will be present for on-field work on Friday at 1 p.m. That's when practice starts. Roddy Cal asks, David, which NFC West team is the biggest threat for the 49ers this coming season? Until they're dethroned, the Rams are the greatest threat for the 49ers. They won the Super Bowl last year. They defeated the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. San Francisco and LA have quite the rivalry going, obviously in more than one sport, but it's now happening in football, and the 49ers have to come at the champion and take them down. Now, they had no problem beating the Rams before the NFC Championship game. One can argue that they probably should have beaten the Rams in the NFC Championship game. I mean, you had Jaquiski Tart drop that interception from Matthew Stafford in the fourth quarter that might have reversed the outcome of that game, but it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda until the 49ers get back out on that field and beat the Rams again. They did it 6 times in a row. They're going to have to figure out how to start a new streak next season. How many of the 9 drafted players do you think make it on the 53-man roster? That's really, really tough because the 49ers also have some worthy undrafted free agents because of the COVID year, right? Because of the fact that so many potential draftees stayed behind into 2021 in school. That led to an extremely deep draft class. And you have guys like Donovan West, who I wrote about. Herm Edwards, his coach at ASU, talked to me this week. Guys like Donovan West, 5th round draft grade, went undrafted to the 49ers. They gave him a $100,000 guaranteed, which is high for a UDFA. But Donovan West has a chance to make the football team. And that's not the only undrafted free agent that has a chance to make the football team. So it's a deep roster as it is, but they've added 20 plus players through the draft and undrafted free agency, all rookies who are going to be fighting to make a spot. And it's probably going to be injury dependent, right? Because if some guys get hurt in camp, that's going to open up a few more spots. Or if guys don't get hurt, then the opposite will be true. So I don't know. I think maybe if I had to estimate out of the 9 draftees, I think 5 or 6 make it on the team, but it could be more if the 49ers have some openings. Obviously, guys will make it through the practice squad as well. Guys will be re-signed later in the season as well. It's all really, really tough to predict at this point. All right, scrolling down, let's take a look at some more questions. Are the 49ers putting Jimmy in a tough spot by hanging on to him until training camp? He got injured trying to help the team in the playoffs. Now can't be traded yet because he isn't healthy. No, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I think the 49ers are doing exactly what you would expect any team to do in this situation. Jimmy Garoppolo is under contract for one more season. He obviously played good football for the 49ers last year. In general, he's delivered for them, right, over the course of his several seasons with the 49ers. And they also have Trey Lance now on the roster as they look forward to the future where they're trying to add some mobility and a really high ceiling to the quarterback position. Now, Garoppolo's under contract on a really team-friendly situation. He's not owed any guaranteed money in the 2022 season. And the money that, is on his deal, the base salary, $24.2 million, won't vest into a guarantee until if and when Garoppolo's on the 53-man roster come week 1. So up until then, the 49ers have full contractual flexibility. Quarterback's an extremely important position, the most important position. And you're not just going to let go of somebody at the quarterback position because you feel like being nice or you feel like the fans on Twitter want you to do that. If you have full contractual flexibility, then you're going to keep him until the point where you're forced to make a decision, right? So 2 things could force the 49ers to make a decision. A, somebody could blow them away with a trade offer and they'll be like, okay, yes, it's worth it to trade Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Or B, that doesn't happen until the point right before the start of the season where you actually have to jettison him or you have to take on his $24 million contract this year, $24 million base salary guaranteed starting if he makes the 53-man roster. And at that point, you evaluate your options. At that point, you'll have more data on Trey Lance. You'll have an entire offseason, an entire training camp of Trey Lance data, and you'll be able to say, hey, is it appropriate to move forward with only Trey and no other viable starter on the roster? Because nobody's considering Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy viable starters for this 2022 season. And if you consider that to be the case, okay, well, then maybe you can trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a very low round pick, or you could even cut him, right? Because he'll probably be healthy by then, and you won't owe him the $7.5 million for the injury guarantee. But until then, the 49ers really aren't forced to make a play. And I know there's a lot of restlessness when there's not any action. Everybody's been talking about potential Jimmy trade, potential Debo trade. Nothing actually happens. But the reason there isn't action is because it doesn't really make business sense in the 49ers to do it right now because they could maintain their options as long as possible. It's called option power, right? And B, their options are even more constricted at the moment because Jimmy's not healthy. So the trade demand's obviously lower, but also they'd be on the hook for a $7.5 million injury guarantee. So I don't see it as putting Garoppolo in a tough spot. I just see it as this is how you operate. You keep the quarterback position as deep as possible until you're forced to make an actual decision. Who's going to win more games, the Niners or the Raiders? Until the Raiders prove to me that they're a more competent franchise than the 49ers, I would have to say 49ers, right? It's the records haven't even been close in recent years. I know new leadership with the Raiders over there in Vegas. Maybe they'll prove to be better this year. We'll see when they play. That's going to be interesting when they schedule that game in Las Vegas. But right now, the 49ers are in the benefit of the doubt. All right. Let's see. Well, yeah, I get this thought. With the surgery timing, it's tough because Garoppolo didn't want to have surgery. Like nobody wanted it to work out this way, right? Surgery was going to shelve Garoppolo for several months, regardless of when it was. So he's trying to avoid it for the first month of the offseason. He's doing the rehab, and then it didn't take. The rehab didn't take, so he had to have surgery in the middle of March, and that put him on the shelf until late June. So you're talking about the trade window and the quarterback carousel. That was all in March and April, right? That was earlier in the offseason. So say that Jimmy Garoppolo had surgery a month earlier, right after the end of the regular season. Well, just do the math, right? Now he's scheduled to come back around June 30th, late June. Let's put it that way. Let's be optimistic, late June. If he has it a month earlier, he's scheduled to come back May 30th from the same surgery, right? So he still would have not been healthy during the window in which all these quarterbacks moved. So I don't think that he toughened the spot for the 49ers at all. Either there's going to be a quarterback opening because of some other stuff that we don't know about, injuries, whatever, a little bit later in the offseason, during training camp, if you will, or there's not. So the 49ers, either way, we're going to have to wait, regardless of whether Jimmy got surgery in February or if he got surgery in March. They were going to have to wait until later in the offseason based on how these teams have reacted to the fact that he can't throw and had surgery. So in a way, Garoppolo trying not to have surgery for that month was the 49ers' only possible option, really, to get him to be trade ready based on what we know now by free agency or April or whenever teams were looking to trade for a quarterback. So to me, I really disagree with that premise. I don't think that's true at all. More questions because the Warriors are probably about starting right now. Let's see. Right here. Any vets on the team who might get released in favor of a newly drafted player besides D Ford? Well, I guess technically Garoppolo if they can't find a trade partner and they decide that Trey Lance is fully ready to go. And that's the best course of action moving forward for Garoppolo. Sansom Ebukam, that's another one. I mean, if Drake Jackson shows up in camp and is just dominating people at 265 pounds, then you could, cut $6 million of slack there. But the 49ers, again, they like that defensive line position just being overfilled to the brim because they think overfilled is exactly where you want to be. And considering the fact that defensive line is such a point of emphasis for the 49ers, and that Ebukam turned it around at the end of last season. He started to figure it out. I don't see them trimming too much fat along the defensive line. So it could be something like that. That's like the big kind of monetary albatross, if you will. And I wouldn't even call it an albatross. It's just $6 million is sitting there that they could free up. But if Ebukam is as productive as he was down the stretch run of last season, he's well worth it because they want to stack that defensive line with depth. So obviously the cap savings probably, potentially, whatever you want to call it, will come through Garoppolo. Ebukam is also a potential cap casualty there if you're looking at things from that lens. But as far as this goes, I think the 49ers are way more likely to run a restructure, to open up some more room instead of cutting a guy like Ebukam. If, again, you're going to open up a lot of money down the road if Jimmy Garoppolo obviously is traded. All right, let's do one or two more, and then we'll call it a day. We'll go start watching some Warriors a little bit later this evening. Who will be the starters in the secondary, including Nickelback? Well, that's a good one. So, I did the piece on Samuel Womack yesterday. You never know how a rookie, especially a guy from a mid-major conference like the MAC, is going to translate to the NFL level. And you always have to probably embed some development time. So in the secondary, I wouldn't expect Samuel Womack to step in and start from day one. Probably the biggest question about him is, will he physically be able to throw his body in there and do what he needs to do at the NFL level? That's something that K'Wan Williams was so good at, even though he was only 5'9" and 180 or so. And I know Womack has got similar measurables, but it's just a different world out there moving from the MAC to the NFL. So he's probably going to have to get used to the bruises at the next level. So, if he is on a little slower developmental curve than starting week one, I really, really like Charvarius Ward, obviously, to start at one outside cornerback position. And I really like Emmanuel Moseley to start at the other outside cornerback position. And I really like Emmanuel Moseley shifting into the slot on passing downs with Ambry Thomas coming in as the 49ers' third cornerback. Now, I know I haven't mentioned Jason Verrett, and that's because I don't assume that he's going to be fully ready to go week one, even though, remember, Verrett tore his ACL in week one of 2021. So theoretically, he might be knocking on the door of 100% ready to return, because this guy's been through a lot of injuries. That's a bad thing, yes, but the good half of that bad thing is that he knows how to recover from these injuries, right? He's bounced back from these injuries only to get injured again. So maybe Jason Verrett's going to be ready earlier rather than later. Sooner rather than later, you can hope. If you're the 49ers, options are a good thing at that cornerback position. And I really think that as far as flexibility into the slot, Emmanuel Moseley is a key piece while Samuel Womack gets ready. But Womack is the guy that they're eyeing for the future in the slot with that wingspan at 5'9". It really is impressive. And I think he is a player who the 49ers are definitely eyeing for that position as far as his physical tools. When are you going to do an in-depth video on Danny Gray? It's coming up. I'm going through all these guys right now, right? There's a lot of them to go through. I actually want to talk to Danny Gray. It's going to happen on Thursday or Friday. So when that actually does happen, I promise you, we'll get through a video with Danny Gray, the speedster from SMU. Will Poe make the team? That's a good question. Meet Poe, either James Poe, Mercer center / fullback, on Thursday or Friday. And I mean, the guy can move. The 49ers obviously think he's got some potential. Arms are a little bit short, so maybe he's not going to make it as an offensive lineman, which is troublesome. And maybe he makes it as a practice squad offensive lineman. I know everybody's really excited about the potential fullback versatility. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm going to get going. It's time to go watch the Warriors. I appreciate all the support. Why don't you all subscribe to the channel and subscribe to The Athletic? I put up in the chat section the $1 a month deal, so you can go check out some of the work. Tomorrow's going to be busy. We'll have it blanket covered here and elsewhere. 49ers schedule release, NFL schedule release, and I'll actually be at the facility tomorrow. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Sub to the channel, hit that like button, and go check out that Warriors game tonight. Hope everybody enjoys their Wednesday evening. Everybody take care.